Still 59.
Okay, we got 1 minute.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Enjoying the sun, so we got to get out of here fast enough so we can get the last of the rays, right?
Now, the Parks Committee meeting tomorrow night, that will be,
Yeah,
I mean, only 3 items on the agenda.
and they're all information. Okay, we're gonna call,
Hey, Jack,
yes.
this is Susan Honda. You guys are not on video.
Oh, we got I got a black screen. I guess we're gonna do this in the,
Oh, there you go. Okay, never mind. I see y'all.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't see
Okay.
anybody on mine.
Yours is off, I think.
Is mine off? It's a Black Ops, COVID.
Okay, I see you now.
Okay, thank you.
It should be, there.
There we are. Okay, we will now call our meeting to order. And this is the Land Use and Transportation LUTC meeting. And we have Councilmember Hong Tran on my right and Councilmember Jack Walsh on my left, who are voting members. And we have Council President Linda Kochmar on the far side, Paul McDaniel on the right, and we have Susan Honda, and is Lydia called in also?
Yeah, she's
She's there somewhere. Hi, Lydia.
trying to get on anyway.
Trying to get on. Okay, so we're going to go to the first order of business, which is public comment. Is there anybody out there besides the staff that wants to talk to us? Apparently not. Okay, we'll have to come up with something controversial to fill the room.
Dejected,
Yeah, I know.
unloved.
Okay, any committee business anybody would like to bring up? No? Okay, we're going to go to approval of the minutes, June 2nd, 2025.
I move to approve the minutes of June 2nd, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go to item B. It's going to be the WRIA 9 interlocal agreement, 2026 to 2035. Mr. Dew.
Yes, sir. So what's it? Sorry, in the back. Let's see. All right. Good evening, council members. My name is Kevin Dew, Water Quality Program Supervisor for Public Works. I'm here asking consent on the RAWR 9 interlocal agreement. So the policy question is, should council authorize entering into the 2026-2035 RAWR 9 interlocal agreement? So what is the RAWR 9 interlocal agreement? RAWR 9 stands for Water Resource Inventory Area. And it's a group, so basically the agreement provides funding and the government structure to implementing and managing the salmon habitat plan created by RAWR 9 as a whole, and acts as a lead entity on the salmon recovery under the state's watershed-based framework and under RCW 77.85. The framework is for cooperating and coordinating issues on RAWR 9 to meet requirements of the commitment by any party. So anything, so this agreement and this group is it's a good vehicle for helping meeting any of the requirements required by the city, such as like stormwater requirements through our stormwater permit. And so here's the RAWR 9 area. You can see it's quite large. Originates from the western side of the Cascades, that's south of I-90, and goes out to Elliott Bay. And so you can see a Federal Way here. We're actually part of the Central Puget Sound watershed. So we have a lot of coastal area, and so that's how we're a part of the RAWR 9 area. And so the salmon habitat plan was created because the Chinook salmon was listed as a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act in 1999. And so that's why this plan was created. And this graph just shows why that Chinook salmon was listed. You can see back in the 1870s, we had 650,000 coming back, native species coming, wild coming back through the Puget Sound, through the Green River. And then we had our lowest number back in 2009. We only had 182 Chinook salmon coming back. And so that's why this plan's been in the works, it's been being implemented. And the goal is to have 1,000 to 4,200 native Chinook salmon coming back through the Green River by 2025. And I checked the stats in 2022. They've had 5,500 return. So they're reaching their goals, which is great. And then hopefully by 2055, we'll have 27,000 Chinook salmon, native Chinook salmon wild, coming back by 2055. And so those numbers wouldn't be going up without projects. And so Robert 9 Salmon Habitat Plan has about 117 projects. 2 that are in federal way are listed here. So the near shore, project number 66, Camp Kilworth acquisition. The Forterra was a sponsor here. They bought that property in 2022. And so basically preventing that shoreline there from being developed because shoreline armoring causes a habitat, the foraging fish just destroys their habitat and does habitat for the salmon to hide in, decreasing their survivability. So hopefully acquiring that, not allowing it to be armored, helps their survivability. And then we've got near shore project number 16, which is low priority, hasn't been done, but it's over at Dash Point State Park. Basically, they want to remove the armoring along the shoreline there, wetland enhancements, stormwater retrofits to improve stormwater pollution. And so the options considered here are, should we authorize entering into the Robert 9 interlocal agreement or to not authorize? And the mayor recommends option 1. Any questions?
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, just quick, does the 9 in there, does that indicate that Greenwood River watershed? I mean, is there different numbers or?
Yeah, so there's 10, 11, 12 as well.
Okay.
So it just helps, just like basically a number to identify them,
Okay,
differentiate them.
yeah.
How big is the budget that this organization for this area have?
So it's all through the federal government as well, so they are able to get funding from them. I believe they had like 50 to 100 million for 2025, based on what I've read. We pay in 2025, we pay around 32,000, and they recalculate that every 3 years. There's about 17 agencies involved in this interlocal agreement.
And how much did Camp Kilworth get, or Forterra, do you know?
In the project listing, they said it would cost $3 million to acquire that. And then I looked on King County Assessor, and it's worth about $3 million.
So that came from this watershed funding, then, a lot of that money?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Forterra acquired it, yes. Forterra was a sponsor, they're a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Walsh?
So the cost of the city is how much again?
32,000, at least in 2025.
Okay, so about 32,000 a year?
It's based on population, they have a whole formula.
Okay.
and how they calculate it.
Okay, Susan, you have a question? Okay, do I have a motion?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Okay, thanks, Lydia.
Chair Ovi, I move to forward the 2026-2035 WRIA 9 interlocal agreement to the July 15, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll now move to Pollution Prevention Assistance Partnership Interagency Agreement with the Department of Ecology. Mr. Dew, you're up again.
All right. All right, so my second item today would be asking consent to enter into interagency agreement with Ecology for their pollution prevention assistant partnership. So the question is, should City Council authorize entering into this agreement with Ecology regarding their pollution prevention assistant, or PPA program? So the PPA program, what is it? It began in 2007, and its purpose is to provide technical assistance to businesses that produce hazardous waste, or dangerous waste is how we categorize it in Washington. It's a more strict term for it. And basically, this program would focus on small quantity generators. And here are the different types of generators you can see. There's small, medium, and large. And so a small quantity generator would be a business that produces 220 pounds or less of hazardous waste or dangerous waste, or 2.2 pounds or less of acutely dangerous waste. And so just for a frame of reference, like a 55-gallon drum full of water is 450 pounds. And this is monthly generation, so it's half of that, not a lot at all. And so those are the type of business we would focus on. Medium and large are focused on by ecology. They focus on those. So we would just focus on the smalls. And so the technical assistance we would provide through this program would be reviewing their spill prevention practices, providing best management practices for stormwater protection, explaining the hazardous waste regulations that apply to that specific business, and linking them to safe recycling and disposal resources for managing their hazardous waste. And then we also promote Ecology's product replacement program, which is the program that a business can apply for, and Ecology will help pay for a safer alternative to a more hazardous product that they use. So why should we apply? Well, through this program, it's a performance-based agreement. So Ecology would pay us back for everything that we do for this program. So salary, activities, materials, training, staff time. And we're already required to do a similar site visit through our stormwater permit, which is source control. We already have to go to businesses, and through that, we're like more of a regulatory, so we can enforce. But through this, we also have the resources from Ecology to help provide technical assistance, go with more of that voluntary compliance with businesses versus the regulatory enforcement. And, provides outreach to prevent dangerous waste from impacting the city's stormwater system, our environment, and just keeping federal way cleaner. And so the options are considered to approve this authorization or to not approve it, and the mayor recommends option 1.
Councilmember Walsh?
First, a question that doesn't really strictly apply. This is an interagency agreement. The last one was an interlocal agreement. What's the difference between an interagency agreement and an interlocal agreement?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing? Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Right
Well,
here.
that's-
Is that the legal definition?
That was answered very well then. Just a quick question. How many businesses in Federal Way are producing hazardous waste? And what type of hazardous waste is the most commonly produced in businesses?
Automotive is a really big one. So all the, antifreeze, parts washer, motor oil, paints, and let's see, we have schools as well, because also light bulbs that are fluorescent, they have mercury in them. And so that's actually considered hazardous waste as well. So all the multifamilies are involved as well. I'd say quite a bit. Everything along Pack Highway for sure, probably.
Okay.
Be included, which is
All right.
quite a fair amount, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McDaniel?
Yes, thank you. A couple quick questions. I was reading through this, and it looks like it's 4 staff members who they compensated for the time for the services. Okay.
Indeed, yeah.
And I believe the grant total was 200 and some thousand. I can't find the exact number.
Oh, it's for this contract cycle. So we just finished our current cycle, and so this new contract will start July 1st. They'll back rate us as well. It's 152,000.
152, okay.
That we can acquire, because performance based, right? So based on how much work we do, they'll pay us up to that much.
Gotcha. And then my question is kind of like Councilmember Walsh is, so you guys have listed on here food establishments and automotives as the 2 targets, and then you guys had cleanup kits. So what exactly, when you guys go to talk to the automotives or the food establishments, what is exactly you guys will be doing?
So it's more of educational, unless we see like something that requires us to regulate, then we would not do this type of inspection. We go more to the enforcement side because we have to do that through our stormwater permit. But basically we'll just not go in, ask them where their sources of hazardous waste generations are. So maybe it's heavy concentrated cleaning chemicals, motor oil, where they store that, how is it stored, is it labeled? And then we'll provide them a free spill kit, and basically show them how to use it, like when to use it, and go from there.
Okay. And then the only other question I had is what falls into the food category? I thought that was an odd one to have on here, is the food establishments.
Oh, so those restaurants. So not only does it focus on hazardous waste, but the fog as well, fat, oils, and grease, as that can clog up not only the storm system but the sewer system as well. So that's just a aspect that we also focus on. And during my spill kit, so we have a lot of spills in Federal Way that I responded to, and I did a little analysis, and food grease was like a really big one that I found, just because they store in the dumpster area, and sometimes people don't want to dump it in because it's gross and it's dirty, and so sometimes those get spilled or they just get dumped into the storm drain right there, and it goes into our system, and then eventually goes into creeks, and the lakes in Federal Way.
Is that classified as hazardous waste, or is it just something we just don't want down there?
Something we don't want there. We have to regulate that through our stormwater permit.
Okay, and the last question is if we did not have this reimbursable grant, would we still do most of this work? It sounds like it was part of the plan already.
Yeah, most of the work was already done. Like stormwater is an aspect of this inspection or site visit. They like to say site visit because it's less regulatory. Ecology likes to be less regulatory.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, hey, thank you for the answers.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the interagency agreement with Ecology for the pollution prevention assistance program to the July 15, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to item D, which is the goods and services agreement with Arlington Recyclable Warehouse. Is this where they take the mattresses? No?
Yes.
Okay. I just recycled one today to a neighbor. They needed a bed.
We call that reuse, and we very much support it.
Did 3 of them.
Okay. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rebecca Kovar. I'm with Environmental Services as part of Public Works, and we are here once again to talk about the changes we needed to make to the agreement with Arlington Recycle Warehouse. As you know, we talked about this in March. So the policy question before you is, should City Council approve the changes to the goods and services agreement with Arlington Recycle Warehouse to provide recycling event services? Council has already approved the agreement, but we had to make minor adjustments to the method of compensation in order to allow the contractor to participate in a wider array of events. The total amount of the contract has not changed. The only thing that has changed is how we calculate the compensation. The questions before you are, the options before you are approve the proposed goods and services agreement as rewritten, or do not approve it and provide direction with staff. The mayor's recommendation is to approve the proposed goods and services agreement. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have a question?
don't-
Mr. Daniel. I'm
No
sure
question,
you
but I do like your little picture you stuck on here. It's very nice.
You know how I recycled mattresses today by going on Free to Neighbor, whatever that website is.
That's all part of its recycle and reuse works.
We
do
use
an
them?
entire clothing swap for
Yeah.
reuse. So-
Anyway, you wanna
And the
get-
other thing is, if the mattresses collected by Arlington Warehouse are in new or like new condition, then they have them cleaned and they either sell or donate them to places that are helping people transition into permanent housing.
Okay. Miss- yeah.
Chair, I have a question. So, when people want to recycle their mattresses, do they just call the company directly, or how do they do that?
No, we
No.
hold recycle events. You can certainly drop it off, but you would have to drive up to the Everett area, which is where they're currently located.
I see.
We hold collection events as part of our services, and we are hoping to work with them to do door-to-door collection events, which was one of the reasons we had to rewrite this.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to forward, oh,
Oh, I didn't.
When will we know about the door-to-door? A lot of people here don't have trucks, or something people would like to know about.
As soon as we get that worked out, we will publicize it very highly. But we're still going through the details. We know we have them for collection events, but to set up something on that scale takes quite a few months of planning.
There's another thing I was asking, for example, for Fusion, a lot of women I know, styles change, bodies change, clothing sits in your closet, and I have numerous women that I know who are wondering what to do with really nice clothing but they don't want to take it to Goodwill. What do we do? And you're
We
talking
do
about
two
clothing
clothing
exchange.
swaps every year.
Is that
We do
at the
one in
Tool Library?
spring and one in the fall
At the Tool Library.
at the Tool Library. And we have diverted many thousands of pounds of clothing from the landfill. Now, Goodwill will take some of those, obviously, but the nice thing about clothing swaps is it tends to stay in your community.
Yeah.
So people who need it, we don't charge anybody. You don't have to donate clothes in order to pick them up. Anybody can come and find clothing that works for them.
And also with furniture, big pieces of furniture. That's also
Furniture
been
is much harder.
So what do we do about that? I mean, used to be you
We
could,
call either Fusion or one of the other donation places to see if they will take it, first of all.
tried that.
And if they don't, then most people will send it to the landfill. Or what we would prefer people do is try to find a no-pay group so that you can put it up, like you can put it on Facebook Marketplace, but there are also free cycle groups where you post it and you say, okay, and people come pick it up. Because that's a great way to make sure that things don't end up being garbage that still have a lot of life
Yeah,
left in them.
yeah, exactly.
Also,
Okay.
if it's just broken furniture, you can bring it to our repair cafe and see if they can fix it.
Okay, we have a motion.
All right. I move to forward the proposed agreement, the July 15, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to authorization to apply for a transportation grant. Well, it's not Mr. Perez, but,
No, good evening.
Unless you've got younger and grew more hair.
yeah. The younger version, huh?
Yeah. I'm Blake Messmer. I'm a traffic engineer with the city. I'm filling in for Rick tonight.
Okay. You're welcome. You're always welcome.
All right. So we are asking for authorization to apply for a transportation grant. That is the policy question. So background information, the Transportation Improvement Board holds different grant cycles. And for 2026, there's an application that's due August 15th next month. So we've reviewed the funding criteria to be eligible for this grant and compared this against the Transportation Improvement Plan, the TIP. And we think that the City Center Greenway along South 308th Street and 20th Avenue South would be a good candidate. So the city's actually already currently budgeted for about $500,000 for this project. We are asking the grant to apply for that same amount, and that would be able to bolster those funds for a total of $1 million. This is the vicinity, so important part about this project is that it connects in with the new trail along 16th Avenue to the north and to the city center to the south. And the options are to approve us to submit this grant application or do not and provide direction. Mayor recommends option 1.
Mr. McDaniel.
Only question I have is, are we doing anything on top of it, or are we just getting additional funds for the original project?
Yeah, so whether we get these grant funds or not will affect the scope of the project. So regardless if we get the grant, we do have that $500,000 that we've already budgeted for. But it would be great if we got this grant and could largen the scope and, hopefully provide a better project to benefit the city even more.
What would be the enlarged project? Like, what is the additional advantage of this grant that we're looking at trying to do?
Yeah, so if we're able to get the funding, then, maybe we could build a wider sidewalk or provide more landscaping or things along that. If we don't, we'll have to be a little more budget conscious, but I'm not sure. Mr. Walsh, DJ, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so when this was budgeted, it was anticipated we would go after either this grant or one of the grants that compete kind of at the grant funding side with this grant, but we were never intending to fully fund this out of city funds. It was always intended to have a grant match associated with the project.
Okay.
So if we don't do it, chances are we would have to scale down the project that you just saw on the screen.
Okay, so the design that we have is actually designed with the high probability of getting the loan, not loan, but the grant, but if we don't get the grant, we just have to scale it back?
We either have to scale back or go after a different grant, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Walsh?
Oh, you say that's 308th, and what's the cross street?
Why don't
Maybe
you
go back
back
to
Yeah,
the map.
up,
20th, yeah.
please.
I have another map actually here. So this just kind of shows us between 99 and 308th and down to the city center at PVR and 312th. So that kind of provides that connection between the new trail that we've worked on 16th Avenue and the city center, where there's bike lanes and sidewalks where people could get to the city center. So it's kind of to provide that missing connection there.
All right.
And,
Right.
and my question is, the extra 500,000, is that include building it, or is that just a design?
No, we're talking about construction money here.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
I, get to the right page. I move to forward the proposed submittal of a transportation grant application to the July 15, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome.
And
Thank you,
now,
guys.
and now we're going to move to SPAR, Public Defender Grant Acceptance and Amendment. And where's that coming from?
That is coming from me, Chair Doby.
Oh, from left field on the, okay.
That's right.
Oh, that is left field. Okay, you're up.
Well, I played center field, but left field's okay.
Well, when I was looking straight ahead, you're over there talking from the left, according to my hearing aid. So anyway, go on, you're up.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Chair Doby, members of the committee and council members. My name is Brian Davis. I'm the city administrator. This is a grant that you've actually heard before. This is to augment the grant for our public defense program. This is through the State Office of Public Defense. In the past couple of years, it's a new program. We've done it for a couple of grant cycles, each for $50,000. This one is for 70, and so because of the increase, we're coming back to council for your approval. This is, in the grand scheme of things, pretty. It's not a huge grant, given the millions of dollars that we get in grants every year, but the administrative cost to the city is quite low. Much of the data that we're required to report is already provided to us by our public defender by contract or numbers from the court that they already have available. So it's not a lot of staff time to administer, and for that reason, we believe that this grant is worth its while. The staff is, because it can't be through the law office because they supervise the prosecutors, can't be through the court because the judges supervise that department, and so it needs to fall on to the city and a neutral party, and so it's the mayor's office, and that staff is me and Pam Jones. So that's why I'm presenting this, and I also want to thank the committee for having this on the agenda to begin with. This is somewhat off topic for the land use committee, but because of the timelines required from the state, we needed to get it through before probably would have been FedRAC as the committee that we would have gone through. So I appreciate your willingness to put this on, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. McDaniel.
The main question I have is, in the description, it states that if the grant is not accepted by the city or is not offered by the state in the future, the city will pay for all public defense services with the general fund. Do we not usually have a standard fund or a fund set aside under courts or under the police for public defense?
Public defense we're required to provide it, and so it does come through the general fund. It's not through, like I said, it's not through the court or through the law department or police. It has to be somewhat of a neutral party of the city, and all of those other ones that you and I just mentioned have some in a simple possession case have some they're a party to the matter, and so public defense is sort of in the case where the defendant doesn't have their own representation. The city's required to provide them that service.
Yeah, I see that the vouchers grow out every month, and it gets pretty high sometimes. But my question is, I was trying to make sure I understood. So there is no fund for public defense? It always comes out of the general fund?
Yes, I mean, there's no other revenue source to support that. So, I mean, we have a budget for public defense, but that's set aside for that purpose, and it's budgeted. And so it's not like we take money from that to other general fund activities, but the original source of the fund is the general fund.
Okay, so when it said just going back to the general fund, that's technically where it comes from, but if the fund's drained, then it's going to go back to general fund for more money.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, Mr. Tran?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to forward option 1 to the July 15, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your willingness also to have this presented remotely. I'm off today, I'm not in the office, so thank you for that as well.
Well, you didn't have to say that. You were in left field.
Sounds good.
Okay. Item G, authorization to seek and accept grant funding for ramp litter cleanup program. Rebecca, you get to come back up.
Do, it's my pleasure. Good afternoon. I am here to seek authorization to seek and accept grant funding for the ramp litter cleanup program for the Department of Ecology. So the policy question, which is very long, is, should the City Council authorize applying for competitive grant funding focused specifically on litter cleanup along freeway interchange access points within Federal Way? And, if successful, authorize acceptance of the grant funding and enter into a related agreements for receipt and expenditure of the grant funds. The Washington Department of Ecology usually releases the information on these grants in a very shortened time frame. So the grant application period opens on July 29th and closes on August 26th. The maximum grant award is $60,000, and that's what we would be applying for. And this is a competitive grant, which means all the other cities can apply for it too. So we are not guaranteed to get the grant, but we would like to apply for it. We have had this grant previously. We had one in the beta program, which was not competitive, and then the past cycle, which has come to an end on June 30th, we had this grant, and in that time, we cleaned up the ramps 12 times, I believe, and over 5,000 pounds of garbage was taken off. There were many pieces of furniture and other discarded items. And the overall ramp appearance was so much better that we actually got phone calls thanking us for getting it cleaned up. And these are the interchanges. All of them have multiple ramps. So each of those are cleaned once a month. We use the contractor that we already use for street cleaning, but we bill them, we pay them separately through the grant funds. So the question is to authorize the staff to apply for the grant funding, accept funding, and enter into related agreements for expenditure of funds, or do not authorize the application and provide direction to staff. The mayor recommends authorizing, applying for this grant, and accepting the funding if it is awarded.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, a question. You mentioned that in the past it's been a non-competitive grant.
When they did the rollout program to see how it would work, they offered those up to various cities to run basically the test program, and
Okay.
we did do that.
Okay. And now with this 60,000, it's a competitive grant. Is it multiple cities
Yes,
vying
this
for
is
for
the
this?
second term of, the last time we got it was competitive,
Okay.
and we got the full amount.
Okay. So is it multiple cities vying for the same 60,000, or are there multiple
No.
$60,000 grants out there?
Multiple
that-
cities, you can apply for up to 60,000.
Okay, all right. So the state has more than one $60,000.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good.
Yes.
Good, okay.
Yes, Councilman Tran?
Thank you, Chair. This has nothing to do with this program, but I just want to share that this is one of the most frustrating things for me. And I often ask myself, what can we do to change the people behavior? You know, when you drive around the city, people just roll down the window, empty the trash on the street. It's just frustrating. Is there some way we can do something to change people behavior? Can we give them a big tickets or make them do community service or something? Because I tell you what, I mean, I travel so far, 52 countries, and we are considered to be the first world country. And I have to say, it doesn't look like when you look at our street, you know, not just our city, but, you know, throughout the U.S., trash everywhere, right? So, I mean, I'm just frustrated.
Well, I will say that that is actually part of our mission in environmental services, is to educate people on why they shouldn't do this, to help provide receptacles so that they have a place to put it besides the ground, to work with community groups, all in various different communities and demographics, to spread the word to people who might not be getting it through social media or other things. So I feel you. We feel the exact same way. We deal with this all the time. We produce an inordinate amount of garbage, and it's part of our job to do whatever we can to keep it out of the, you know, off of the street, out of the waterways, that sort of thing. So I can't do anything in terms of the enforcement side of it, but we are doing everything we can in terms of the education and outreach side. It's very useful, especially to go into schools, because children will hold their parents to account better than just about anybody else. They'll say, no, don't do that. So that's also one of our focuses. So we feel the same way. We would like people to make less trash and to handle it appropriately. But it is a Sisyphean task.
I was going to say that there's a simple solution, but I don't think that we can do that. I mean, if the council could implement the penalties like in, from my understanding, in Singapore, where if you litter, you get caned. You know, I mean, that it would come to a stop very quickly, but I don't think we're allowed to do that, so, unfortunately, so. But no, you're right. I just visited the Netherlands. You don't see a bit of trash on the streets there. And when we were in Korea and Japan, not a bit. And so it is a sad
Can we
situation.
hit them where it's hurt, their wallet?
Yeah, so we do actually have an illegal dumping piece of our code. It's an infraction that does carry a relatively hefty fine. It's just a question of being able to actually catch the person in the act and for the police to be able to actually issue the ticket to the person, because it's not easy to do that unless the police officer's, you know, right behind the car and they see them tossing, you know, McDonald's lunch out the window. It's pretty hard to be able to tie that violation to a specific person. There are illegal dumping tickets that are issued. Also, I'm aware of a few, but it's not many.
Linda?
I was going to say that I thought we had a ticket for illegal dumping, especially if they're throwing a lit cigarette out of the car. I thought it was $200, but
I actually think it's more than that now, yeah. I think it's
I'd say it's 470 or
Yeah.
490.
well,
that's,
maybe what we could do at some point, make it in our city newsletter that there is,
We have.
You
so
have.
This is one of the topics we periodically include.
Okay.
You know, and to piggyback on some of the comments here from a couple of different people. So certainly there's other countries around the world that take a much more serious approach to it and have had much better results. That is also true state to state. So our hands are somewhat tied at the state level in what the enforcement is. And if you look at Idaho is a good example. If you go to Salt Lake City, you'll see very little litter on the ground. They have much more severe penalties at the state level, up to the point where dumping can be a felony, which gives them a lot more, it gives their police a lot more power to enforce. So there's, a lot more consequence. That in Washington would changing at the state level, though, not something that we can do at a city level. So there is a component of that to this, but I think all my staff would echo everything that's been said up here with how frustrating it is. I mean, we spent most of the day today cleaning up after people's parties all weekend, so.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I'm assuming this is the State Department of Ecology, correct? Not
Yes.
federal. Do you know how much money in total they are going to be granting for the grants?
I do not have that number in front
was
of me, but I'll
curious.
be happy to email it to you.
Yeah, I was just curious, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
certainly.
Walsh?
Question, probably for Ken or EJ. With the penalty, I mean, obviously, it's difficult to enforce, but with the penalty, along with a monetary penalty, are we able to do something where it is required community service, cleaning up the roadway if they're convicted?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, though I can find it out and email it to you as well.
I think that sometimes if it were both the monetary penalty and they're going to be out there cleaning up the roads, that may have more impact than monetary penalty alone.
I think in general, that has to be more than an infraction. In other words, it has to be something more, misdemeanor felony land for us to be able to require those types of community service, but I'll check. That's an educated guess rather than a correct answer.
And according to state, we cannot make it a misdemeanor rather than just an infraction?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where that line is either.
Okay, all right. It'd be interesting to find out.
So the question is, if we don't get the grant, what's going to happen?
The ramps will go uncleaned.
Do we have, so we,
We are not allowed to clean the ramps without this authorization. WashDOT is actually responsible for cleaning the ramps.
so if they don't give the money to the city of Federal Way, and you just told us that the people have called and said, hey, this is great, you've cleaned up, they look great, then we don't get the money, we can't spend our own money to clean them?
No. So it's state property. So
Right, I get-
The grant is they're also giving us a right-of-way permit to allow us to actually go onto state property to clean it up. So without that permit, no, in short, no.
So if we don't get the permit, then the people of everybody in Federal Way has to complain to,
WashDOT,
WashDOT.
or our representatives.
sure.
Okay,
The total amount of funding is 700,000, by the way.
Thank you.
yeah, that's only 10 cities.
Well, I will say that from talking to the grant manager on the state side, that we have one of the highest rates of cleanup completion and some of the best record keeping, so our chances are good. I
Well,
can't guarantee it, but our chances are
Let's hope
good.
we get it. Okay, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed authorization to apply for and accept grant funding to the July 15, 2025 consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to get a progress update on the Sound Transit projects. Mr. Smith, information only, and you probably got lots of stuff.
I've got a little. Good evening. That's not what I wanted. I think I'm still sharing. Okay. Good evening. Ken Smith with the City of Federal Way Public Works Department. I'm here for updates on sound transit activities in the city. For Federal Link Extension, north of the city, north of 317th, so north of the downtown. Still working on a lot of the comms electrical testing, live wire testing and adjustments, as well as rail grinding and a little bit of landscaping and punch list items, along with repairing some wire theft that happened along their corridor. Work for the traffic mitigation project is still ongoing. They're progressing to some of the curb gutter sidewalk work as they move towards finishing up and getting to 99. For downtown, for City Center, their work is nearly complete for the new roundabout at 23rd and 317th. They just finished the last little bit of curbing for the roundabout in the center, and they are working on the final landscaping for the center island, which is scheduled to finish this week. Final restoration for the parking lot at Marlene's is underway. They're expected to be done by the beginning of August. Their lease, I believe, runs out July 29th, so they need to be done by then. Final sidewalk, landscaping, and roadway work for the internal streets, 22nd, South 318th, South 319th, and South 317th is ongoing. I believe they're just working on curb gutter, sidewalk, and some of the roadway. The restoration work for South 320th and 23rd is nearly complete. They did some paving. They got some extra paving to finish, and then a little bit of final striping, which is scheduled for later in July. Still working on some of the stuff with the station, which is primarily focused on testing activities, so they've finished most of the actual physical work. End-of-line facility is preparing for their final building inspections, and they're working on installing some of the final HVAC equipment. And then final railing. This is railing for the side of the garages going in. For the operations and maintenance facility south, I don't have anything significant. We're just still working on the development agreement. For Tacoma Dome Link Extension, at the June 26th board meeting, the board identified the preferred alternative for the TDLE as the SR99 West alternative, along with the design refinement to run on the east side of SR99 as they get to Milton. They also identified the South 352nd Street station as the preferred alternative station. Other than that, I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with 323rd and 317th. That has been a topic, I think, almost every month, that roundabout. I saw another car drive into oncoming traffic, and if it wasn't for the bus paying attention and laying on the horn, they would have been smashed. That is probably the most miserable or most poorly documented or signage or whatever you want to call it for letting people know how to travel around that roundabout. I mean, we've complained about it month over month, and I don't know if Sound Transit just doesn't care or not, but it is probably the most miserable, like I said, dangerous spot on the road. I actually have a question for legal. If we run into this situation in the future, because they're almost done with this project now, and it's down by the Costco exchange and stuff, what is the legal recourse the city has when you don't feel a partner is doing the best they can to make sure the residents are being safely protected?
I'm not sure we have one, is my initial response to you. I mean, they're contractually obligated to do certain things under existing agreements, like development agreements and stuff that we have. So if they're violating some aspects of those as a result of that failure, then that might be a way. We'd have a cause of action for breach of contract, essentially, or to enforce the development agreement. But beyond that, I don't think we have a claim. It would be somebody. I actually don't know exactly who designed the roundabout, so I probably shouldn't say. Okay, yeah, so another, obviously this isn't the city enforcing, but if, someone were to get hurt at that intersection, and there would obviously be a lawsuit in terms of, negligent design of the roundabout, that type of stuff. That's a third party, not the city suing Sound Transit in that instance. So probably just the contractual development agreement angle, and that's probably about it.
Okay, yeah, because it is probably the most poorly marked construction I've ever seen in the city of Federal Way. And the other question is, I'm curious to know how much money Marlene's has lost by not having access from the backside. I know personally I have not gone there 3 times because every time I come from the backside I'm used to, there's no way of turning in. And it adds an extra 10 minutes to my drive to go to Marlene's, and I'd literally just stopped shopping there because it makes it too difficult to get in there. So it's more of a complaint than it's questions, but I appreciate you listening.
Of course.
Thank you.
Hey, one comment on the roundabout, and it could be because there's so many cones there, and because I've gotten confused driving around that thing. It's scary. But I think part of it is the way that all the cones are and all the work going on. It's not real clear.
And the person who's in front of me drove into oncoming traffic because they thought they were supposed to go in the left lane because there's no lines that say go right, go left, or anything like that. And it is, like I said, that was just on Sunday. The bus just laid on the horn, the guy got out of the way real quick, but he was literally gonna drive face into one of the Metro buses.
Yeah, so they're hopefully going to be done that in the next couple of weeks, which will hopefully alleviate some of your concerns. You know, there is permanent striping that goes in there, so, but obviously it's not in. They're working on the striping this morning when I was out there, so. To the point Kent made earlier, if someone gets hurt as a result of Sound Transit's construction, it would, you know, obviously the insurance companies sue everybody, but we would turn around and say, you know, hey, this is Sound Transit, Kiewit, it's your responsibility, it's an active construction site. But, I mean, best case scenario is we don't want to be in that situation. So we've certainly shared the feedback from council multiple times, as well as our own traffic engineering observations on this
Well,
topic.
that's what irritates me, is you've referred it multiple times, you've even made comments. And
Yeah.
I still have cruddy signs and I have people driving in the wrong direction, so apparently someone above us doesn't seem to listen as much.
I do have one question. I can't remember if you've addressed this, you probably have, but how much tax base has Sound Transit taken out of the city by all the buildings that were taken down, and what's the potential for what's going to happen down at the next station down on 352nd? Do we ever had a summary of how many tax-paying businesses and what the dollar amount has been that we've not, and Sound Transit at, when we go to Christian Faith Center, that's not on the tax roll, so there's no
So there are,
loss there.
CFC is obviously the largest property they're taking. There
Yeah,
are
but
other,
that's,
there
we're getting
are,
taxes from it anyway.
correct, but there are other properties that are being taken as part
Yeah.
of that do generate tax. And TDLE, I'm not sure, we don't have a list of properties definitively that are being taken yet anyway, so I'm not sure we could even get that answer for that project just yet.
Yeah.
For the Federal Link extension, the former finance director, Aday, he had FCS Group do a study on exactly what you were saying, as well as kind of prorating the construction tax and looking at, over the course of construction, would the loss of property tax be offset by the sale of construction materials that are delivered into the city? I don't remember the numbers from that study, but that is something the city commissioned and was done and was presented to council. I can certainly have Steve find it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, well, one of these meetings have that review, because it's.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk to Director Groom and see if he can have it resurrected and brought forward.
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Susan.
The tax question is a great question. I know back when the Sound Transit was talking about taking over the Christian Faith Center area, one of the questions that I had was how much over the course of that building, you know, it's being built for 100 years, would we lose in taxes and businesses? And I had heard that there had been a report made, but I don't think that it was ever presented to council. But I would love to know what the information was. So my question is, the garage is being finished now, but the two garages, when I've looked at them, they don't have the same finish on the outside, and they just don't look very good together. Will that be corrected so that they look like they're one building instead of an addition to the garage?
No, I believe this is the final configuration for the look for the outside.
Oh, that's unfortunate. And then my second question is the station location down in South Federal Way. Can you tell the public more about that?
So they've selected the preferred alternative, in which case it's not the selected as the final station location, but for now, the preferred alternative is the south of 352nd, which is access off 352nd or 356th. It's in between. So they're going to advance that design to around 30%, and then from there, I believe in 2027, they'll look to select the project to be built, which could include that one or another of the other options that they still have as alternatives.
So what business will they take out?
It's DBM as well as I think a portion of the storage facility that's right there, but they haven't given us an exact footprint right now, so it's roughly in that area.
So is Sound Transit now working with DBM to relocate them?
I believe they have to wait until they've selected the project to be built, unless they ask to have early acquisition.
Well, we know the history. Once Sound Transit comes up with their location, their preferred location, it almost always is the location. So it would be great if they could work with DBM now and help them find a site where it's cheaper than it will be in 2027.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the exact requirements. I know there's specific hardships that they look for when they do early acquisition. I could check on that and find out if they would be eligible, but I believe it also comes from a request from the business if they
Right.
they believe that they're going to be picked.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other business anybody like to bring up?
Well, there is a town hall tomorrow morning at KOM-TV with Sound Transit.
Oh, yeah.
Councilmember Von Reichbauer at 7 a.m.
Does everybody hear that? 7 a.m. tomorrow at Mr. Constantine?
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Susan.
The sign code update, I thought that was going to be presented the first quarter of 2025. I must have been incorrect in that. Do you know when that's going to be presented?
I can actually speak to that. An early draft of the sign code amendment is with me currently for review in law. It's lengthy, to say the least, and I'm currently working on it.
So do you know when it will get to us?
So it's also going to have to go through Planning Commission before it gets to you guys. And I defer to Keith on this, but I seem to remember that there was still some ongoing public engagement as well with respect to the contents of the sign code. All that being said, we're looking at probably a couple months out.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have one, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of signs and the freeway on-ramp, you know, the sign coming into the Federal Way off of, if you're headed southbound on the freeway, coming in on 320th, that sign is ugly. I mean, it does not, I mean, it doesn't fit our colors, it's purple and stuff. I mean, it's time that we did something with it.
You talking about the glass sign?
Yeah,
I think the mayor's office is working on something on that.
good. I get complaints about it.
And just so everyone knows, there will not be a land use meeting in the month of August. So there will be no meeting. With that, we will adjourn.
Bye.